automatically from 2 to 16 or 2 to 8 or whatever the case may be. All of these are design parameters which are included in the cloud sales management platform. Right? These are all design parameters. To what extent can you offer these flexibilities? You can also limit those. Who can make their services flexible? Maybe, for example, the finance guys, they don't need to manage their cloud services. They will have a set of requirements and you just give them those. Don't ask them to work on 2 GB to 8 GB memory or flexing up from 80 to 160 gigs or whatever. I don't think they will want to do that. They will have a requirement of doing their job. They will want to do exactly that. They will not change that, right? On the other hand, IT guys or the service provider section, they will want the flexibility, right? So HCM can be configured to provide these flexibilities based on who the persona is, who is asking for the services, what kind of services. So this is all part of design, right? Okay. Now for creating a design, what are the components? You need a provider. Provider could be VMware environment, like we saw. It could be a Red Hat. It could be Hyper-V. It could be OpenStack. It could be IBM. It could be anything. These are the providers. These providers are the building blocks for the services, right? And after that, it is the workflow. Once we know that the services are created, who can avail them? How will they avail them? You create an offering out of the service, right? And you publish them in a catalog, right? Do we know that the business class on an airplane has got a different menu than the economy class, right? This is common, but it comes from the same kitchen, right? So they have a different menu completely, right? The air hostess also comes and asks them, what do you want to eat? For economy, it's not that way, right? You want to eat something, this is what we have. That's it. Otherwise, no option. You cannot say that I want something else. No. You want it, you need to take it. If it is a economy kind of a low-cost airline, no food option. You have to buy food, whatever is available, right? So, what you're doing from the resources that you have, based on the provider, right? They will be used to create services. But how they are offered is different based on who is consuming the services. Now, our friend here from M Service, right? Your organization, M Service, right? Your organization, your company? Embed. So, he has been sorry, my apologies. He has been a consumer of services, right? Now, our friends here from Marco, they have been consumers as well as creators of services for their end customers. So they design the services, right? Now, his requirement was primarily to create a website. Now, if he decides to set up a business of his own, then he will need a lot more resources. He will need a platform, right? And if he decides to become an online retailer himself, he will need to become a broker, right? So these are different variants of the same kind of services, right? So this can be set up, whether it's for a bank or online retail, or cement, or any other organization. So these are all variations of the same set of services, all that can be designed. So if you notice, there's the service name, how many servers, how is it connected, what are the dependencies, etc. On the right hand side, you'll notice some parts of the service are coming from Azure, what are the credentials, list of the parameters, what it contains, etc. This design represents complex, hybrid, or simple services, on-premise or even in the public cloud. How you're going to design the service. You design it once, and you can use it repeatedly. For example, if you have colleagues in another region or in another country, you can just send them designs, just a few KBs of file. They can incorporate this service and then need not design again. If you mean, if you send them a requirement, they will design again, test it again and deploy it. No. You send it once, design it once, send it, and then they can use it if they need to. If you have a platform, you can manage what can be sent and what can be consumed. So there's a lot of advantages like this. So this is primarily the design for provisioning and managing hybrid resources, right? Okay, so let's skip this part. Proven end-to-end orchestration, meaning right from the consumer to the provider and back to the consumer. That's the one full life cycle, end to end. You know, the entire set of services can be orchestrated using operations orchestration. Here's a quick overview. What we saw yesterday was the same operations orchestration, but for SAP services. We took SAP as an example because almost everybody here knows, ping, creating ping as a workflow, automated workflow, or adding a user as a workflow. We all know that. But SAP, because it's already a mature service of its own, how can you orchestrate that? Right? That's what we saw yesterday. There's content for SAP already. Likewise, there's content for the other things. There's a big library of so many workflows. You can drag and drop these. You can just drag and drop these from here and create conditions to have a workflow. Right? So you create logical conditions for the workflow. You can just drag and drop. No programming required. No programming required. Just drag and drop. It's got a workflow. You just need to configure the parameters. Host name, or IP address, or credentials, those kind of things. Right? You can, this can be used by managed service providers as well. Managed service providers have multiple customers. Right? So you can parameterize. You need not individually configure the services. They can be done on the fly based on who the end customer is. Right? So this is used as a basis for what we saw earlier, which is the cloud service design. Orchestration is the engine that drives the design so that the services can be available on a catalog. Right? It's making sense so far? Making sense so far? What we're trying to do? You're trying to become now the broker of services using a HCM as a platform. Your customer needs or maybe already has AWS or Azure or Google Cloud or whatever, or he may be having only VMware, right? You are helping him to be more organized, to make his IT have the charge back. IT spends a lot of money, but they don't know where it is spent, right? So you're streamlining all of this effort, making it more organized and ensuring that they get the charge back. It may not be hard cash, it will just be a show back. What are the resources, how are they converted into services, who is the subscriber of the services or who consumes the services, what is the frequency of consumption, and therefore what is the notional cost to the services, right? All these are governed by the integration and orchestration with operations orchestration. All of these are using 8,000 plus 8,000, well, it's just a number. How many would we actually use? Maybe about 100, 150 or so to have many of the basic services. It could be things like ping server, connect to a VMware platform, create a user, do the service health check, do the server health check, do the network health check, open a port, block a port, those kind of things. Maybe 100, 150. But there's a lot more you can do on the databases, on the middleware, network services, all of these workflows. Imagine running cloud services from a single platform, right? So we know many customers who are banks, who are telcos, who are using this platform to manage all of their services. Some have even created the end user consumer portal from the catalog from here. Right? So there are many interesting case studies. Any questions? We can move forward. Okay, so application release orchestration, like we saw for the DevOps, for enabling continuous delivery is also a capability, right? Let's not spend too much time on DevOps. How the abstraction of the operations for dev teams. Well, let's skip the DevOps part. I think let's come right to assessment. The two other key capabilities included in HCM, Hybrid Cloud Manager, are assessment and migration using PageSpin. Okay, what is assessment? What activities or what tasks are involved in assessment? Building a cloud migration roadmap. What kind of workloads will need to move to the cloud? How do you decide? What is the basis for deciding workloads to be moved to the cloud? Okay, so how do you build it? So there's something called a cloud transformation map. If you notice, this is more like a heat map with different colors and different sizes, right? What is ready? What is ready? What is not ready? Right? This is using combination of discovery, analytics, of application and infra. This is very, very key. So if your customer say, if you go to your customer and say, we will help you move to the cloud, based on what? Right? Your customer will have the question based on what? Well, this is the answer. This is one of the answers. Right? So this is a cloud transformation goal. You will produce this and say, this we think as service providers, as consultants, are ready to move to the cloud. But up to the customer to allow that. Based on further probing and commercials. If it is going to be more expensive to move to the cloud, no point in doing that. Then you might as well continue. But on the private cloud, you might want to set up a new data center, for example, for ensuring good performance. Right? Those could be decisions as well. So that is all entirely project management. How do you manage the project on the ground? But you will use this as a basis for starting the decision making. You have a dashboard that highlights your proposed transformation process. You make informed decisions using heat maps, tables, and charts like you see here. It's primarily intended for system integration. Doesn't mean that customers can't use it themselves. Of course they can. They have an IT team. They can use this for deciding which workloads or which applications to move to the cloud. Right? Assessment can be within the department also. But when we say intended, it means it is revenue for the system integrators or for the partners. Right? This can be, like our friends were talking about SAP here. If their customer says we need to find out if we can move some workload to the cloud, right? There's got to be some basis for deciding that, right? So you need some parameters to decide that. Why should you move to cloud, right? So these are some of the things that help. So once you know that these are the workloads, applications, or infra components that can move to the cloud, then you need to actually start the migration, which is using the PageSpin, right? So PageSpin was acquired by Micro Focus even before they acquired HPE Software. PageSpin was an independent company that Micro Focus acquired it, and then now after acquisition of HPE Software, PageSpin is integrated with hybrid cloud management, right? Because it makes perfect sense to have migration capability. It's not only about deploying onto cloud or managing AWS or whatever. You should also give the ability to move workloads back and forth, right? PageSpin could already do physical to virtual, virtual to physical, physical to cloud, virtual to cloud. You know, all these it could already do, right? This has now been included within HCM, right? Anywhere to anywhere, server migration, right? Between physical, virtual, and cloud. Automated and unlimited testing ensures successful migration. Because this is part of the project, right? You cannot say, I will do it only one time for you. If it fails, I'm not responsible. No. You need to test it, and you need to test the performance as well, right? And then ensure that the workload is finally in production, right? So you need to have the ability to test it unlimited number of times till successful migration happens. You can have a short cutover window because this project planning is already included, like we see here. Planning and automation helps you finish your project on time and budget. Anybody who has done complex transformation activities like over 8 months or 1 year? Anybody has been involved in transformation projects? Any kind of transformation, not necessarily only using cloud or whatever, any kind.
Transformation.
Must be, right? Or maybe your colleagues would have been doing transformation. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And assessment and consulting is a key component. Understanding what is there, what is the performance, what kind of impact is there if that thing doesn't work. What is your fallback plan? What is your rollback plan? Plan A, plan B, plan C. You need to have plan A to Z actually. If it doesn't work, what will you do? Right? Those kind of things. So it can be very complex. So it helps in planning and automating. And of course, we have automation that drives large scale migrations. We have customers in Australia who need to manage between public cloud and private cloud and pretty frequently. That's how they manage it. Okay, their performance is okay. Their business is not dependent so much only on performance, but that's how they want to manage it. We have cases like that as well. Right? They can move workloads between public and back to private. It sounds funny, but yes, they use these kind of instances to manage. Any questions on this? Okay, can you do a demo? Yeah, you have a question?
What the competitor with PlaceSpring?
There are two other competitors. I forget the name too, sorry, but I will look it up.
Okay.
Right? Because placement is new to me also in terms of integration with HCM. This came in only into HCM only about 3 months ago. So the PlaceSpring product manager is also part of the cloud management team.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we know. But I will look it up and let you know who we think is a, because PlaceSpring alone can be sold.
Mm-hmm.
Can still be sold. PlaceSpring as HCM and PlaceSpring can still be sold independently also. Right? So that's where the competition makes sense. Under HCM, I don't think there's anybody. Under HCM, like HCM with workload migration capabilities, I don't think, maybe IBM can do, I'm not sure. But that's services.
Yes.
It's not a built-in capability.
Yeah.
It is extra services, right?
Yeah.
The extra services everybody can do. Amazon can also do that. Azure can also do. They can bring in their consultants, they will study, and then they will give it to their partner, and then they will do the actual migration. You will charge you a lot of money. You would rather set up your new data center and run everything from there. But our placement, I'll let you know. Okay? So I will switch to the demo. If there are any questions, please ask. I'll be very happy if you ask questions. Okay. Don't ask questions to make me happy, but if there are genuinely questions. You guys heard yesterday on how you can access demo environments for you to have hands-on. Everybody has got access to Blue Shift, like it was told by Dwayne yesterday. Do you have access to Blue Shift? Not yet, right? So you go and register yourself, and at the back end they will start the process. You have the link, right? You have the link yesterday. You get the link. Yeah. I will submit after this session, right? Okay, no problem. You need to register anyway. That part you have to do. But the validation will be done along with Gui and his team and the worldwide team that manages the partners, the partner ecosystem. So once that is done, you will have access to that. If that doesn't happen, let us know, we will work it out for you. No problem. But it's a good environment. However, if you need to evaluate the product yourself, you can do it even without being a registered entity. Okay, there is a link online. We will give the link online as well. You can download that and start evaluating yourself. Like I was telling you before the break, right? You can evaluate it yourself. You can do the full assessment of the product. Try it out yourself on your environment. You can do that yourself. I'll skip all the marketing stuff. I think we've spoken enough. Go straight to the okay. So we've talked a lot about containers, right? So how does the whole thing work on a container environment? So let's look at the installer. How does it look like on the containers? Quick overview. Maybe a bit lesser. So this is where the access to the HCM is. It looks like this is container platform. Okay, you're still not on HCM. This is how it looks like. This is based on Docker. This is based on Docker. Okay. You will notice a few things. Ability to look at all the item suites because this is the container platform. Ability to administer and manage the resources. Particularly for resources, you can look at the CPU usage history, memory, etc. Plus the individual worker nodes on Dockers. Right? Status, ready, unknown, true, etc. All of these. This is HCM is available on the container platform as well as the classic mode. Okay. So this is an example of that. So just a quick overview. Let me switch to the other one. How does the admin portal look like? Let's switch. Okay, here you go. This is the admin using or accessing the core of the container. Anybody has got any kind of experience on container platform and accessing or using container? Maybe we'll just skip it. Let's not bore you. Only one person has here. That's on Kubernetes, right?
Yes.
So Kubernetes, by the way, is the orchestration engine for the container.
Yes, I know.
Not the Docker containers, but
Yes.
you use Kubernetes
Yes.
as the container, as the container orchestration.
Yeah.
The process automation and orchestration is still OO,
Oh. Mm-hmm.
right? But within, like for example, doing HA
Mm-hmm.
or spawning of new worker nodes, it's all done by Kubernetes on Docker. So let me skip the part that is not going to be very popular. Okay, skip. Okay. Marketplace experience. What is marketplace? Any examples of marketplace you guys have experience with? Have you bought anything online? Anything? Okay, obviously, right? Everybody's bought something online, right? That's a marketplace, right? Especially if it's an online platform. That's where it's like going to the market, the flower market or the vegetable market, right? Where there are different vendors. Similarly, the platform is enabled, it's ready for integration by the merchants, right? The whole platform is there. Whether it's integration with banking or payment gateway services or any other commercial related services. You have the platform for setting up your own portal. You're trying to do that, right? You might as well try it out on a bigger platform to make yourself an online retailer, right? Setting it up is easy, of course, right? The business part is where the fun starts, right? So that's a marketplace. So marketplace is an experience that is given to the consumers, how they can look at the service offerings, how they can start consuming. So this demo is about that. Yeah, there you go. So this is a catalog created for an aerospace as an example, wherein the credentials are passed and login is done. So what you start seeing is the entire list of services, okay? That includes some services from HCM, that as well as the usage, resource quotas and the usage. So let me try to skip back. Let me re-invoke this. So all of these are shopping for services, managing them, list of the services, any more actions, plus a summarization from the various tools. So we asked our friends here about, do your services have monitoring, ticketing capabilities? How are there any specific quotas given to you? Right? In an organization, you will have certain quotas. You can, email is an example. What's your email quota? As an example, corporate email quota. What's the limit on the size of your email? 10 gigabits. Okay. How do they manage that quota? You don't know and you don't care, right? You don't even care, but you know that that's your limitation, right? Plus, there is limitation on the attachment size also. All of this is managed. Technically, there's no limit, but because they need to govern the services in a particular way. Similarly, on hybrid cloud management as well, you can manage, you can govern the quotas. What you see here is an example of the resource quotas. How many servers, how many CPUs, all of these can be covered. Otherwise, resource optimization will become a bigger problem. If you say yes to everybody, you can never have proper services, right? So you need to limit and manage the quota so that you can optimize the performance. All of this is tied to performance. Even if you are flush with funds, you have enough cash, right? It doesn't mean that you will have great performance. You will have to manage quotas, right? To give a simple analogy, even if you have like a 20-lane highway, it doesn't guarantee that there will be no congestion. There will be congestion. It doesn't mean that. So you would rather have lesser number of lanes in the highway and be able to manage the traffic performance better. To give you a simple analogy. Okay, that's how the quota looks like and what you can do. Let me switch back to the other section, which is ordering a hybrid service. Now that's an overview. Now this is ordering a hybrid service. So what do we have on offer here? Under the aerospace service catalog, this is the dashboard for that. You can browse the catalog, right? This is all obvious, right? You can see the service with a commercial value. How much is it? Plus, is there a monthly charge? Right? By default, there's nothing. You can attach the, so this can be a few hundred baht or whatever, and there's a monthly charge. You can have local currency as well. You can have US dollar, you can have local currency. There's a list of currencies that can be already configured with, or you can create new. You can also have who is the user who is doing this, because eventually you need to manage quota, right? Don't want to give more quota to somebody and less quota to somebody if they are the same department. They're different, the boss, the CEO, the CIO, they will have a different quota, because it's always important for them to have unrestricted services. They will have a different menu, different catalog, different quotas. But for the rest of the users, based on their roles and responsibility, will have different quotas, different ways of managing. So you can have a look at what kind of services are there. Access desktop application. That's one of the services. So these applications are available only for desktop, for individual users of a particular department. And how much are they going to cost? Do the employees pay them themselves? No. This is an intra-departmental transfer that happens. But the usage is understood because there is a chargeback that is to be done. It's a service, right? Only then you can say, okay, this year the IT spent, the IT requested for so much of budget, and they created so many services, and they got back so much of money. The IT becomes not just a cost center, but actually is making some money, revenues, through the IT services that you offer, which is cloud-based, right? So these kind of services can be created. Any questions on this, on what you can do or what you cannot do? Let's keep the container part. Service view, actions and console integration, right? So under the service view, similar to the dashboard for the same persona, you can see what are the most requested for services, similar to what you see in ops page also, or to a certain extent on DCA as well. What is on offer, right? Let's look at all the subscriptions. Under subscription, you can see how many have been requested for. The status, is it active? Is it cancelled? Is it pending? Okay. What else can you do? Can you have an approval? If somebody requests for maybe 32 gigs of memory and 500 gigs of storage space and no IP restrictions, etc. Somebody has got to approve that, right? If it goes to the manager. If it's an instance that is not normal, not common, you can have an approval also integrated. So the approver can come in and say, no, I cannot approve this. Or you have to justify this. So that can be done offline. If you want to give some basic comments, you can give it right there. But if you want to say, I will not approve, you can do it right there and then. So the approval or disapproval is also an orchestration workflow that goes back and enables the triggering of this service. That is automated and automatically deployed. That can also be done. Okay. So here's the list of the services, and you will notice that what's been ordered has a few connected services. This is for the 2-tier deployment and the database app name, if you notice here. What is the linked request? Because there's a set of workflows which are linked to the 2-tier application deployment. Okay, can I modify the subscription? Meaning, can I add more resources or can I remove more resources? Do I want to also cancel? Because if I'm paying money and I know I'm not going to use, then I would rather cancel the subscription. Right? So that's another ability I want to have with the details. Okay. Let me go further. In this case, you will see the details of the service, including things like what is the space, hard disk space, hard disk size, the memory, number of CPU cores, etc. All of these are relevant to who is consuming the services, right? The front end is on VMware, J2EE is on vCenter. You know, those kind of details which are relevant to the consumer. Right? So now we're going to access that. Credentials entered. Then you will see that this is the familiar screen on vCenter. That's been deployed. Because the integration of the vCenter is done at the back end. That's your bed. What other things can you do with the subscription? These are the other actions with the subscription that you can take. Meaning like JBoss heap dump, resize the heap, restart, start the service, stop the service. All of the things need to be done on the environment. The ability to manage the subscription is given to the consumer. He cannot access the vCenter directly. This is the governance that is also included. The same actions that can be taken on the JBoss environment, for example, are passed on to the consumer through the portal. He can manage it through the portal. This is the consumer who is managing these actions. Change the memory size, change the number of CPUs, flex the disk space in MB. Right? So these are things that are availed by the consumer from the platform. So it makes it much more simpler. You don't need another system admin to come in and help out. It's available automatically. Any questions on this so far? What else can we do? Here is an example of adding new front-end node on VMware. This is an action button that has been created in the service design for the end users to add new front-end, burst out to Azure. Bursting out as in if there is a limitation on the capacity within the private cloud, you can now go to the public cloud. You can burst into public cloud. In this case, it is Azure. This ability is also created as an action item for the user. You can burst into public cloud. It could be Azure in this case, or AWS, or whatever you choose to. It could be another hosting partner. Like for example, a bank in Singapore is using Entity Cloud as the hosting partner as well as for bursting. If they run out of capacity or performance issues, you burst into Entity Cloud. Right? That is done automatically. It's pre-configured to burst into Entity Cloud. You can also remove one from the end node from VMware. Basically, the management capabilities are given as action items to the end user. Anything that is making sense a little bit or not at all? Do your customers ask for services like this? It could be only from an ITOM perspective or even otherwise, like for example SAP or IBM Cloud for that matter, or just managing public cloud. Is that something that your customers ask? Okay, so this is what we see as consumers, right? So next we'll have a bit more detail about. Oh, this is not part of the cloud service here. Okay, so my demo has gone into a bit of a spin. Bear with me a moment here. But it happens in AWS as well. What to talk about laptop. You want to keep the prices? When you want to keep the prices for the TCA test, maybe you can use this opportunity to. Otherwise, people will sleep off.
ผลของผลของการทดสอบนะครับ DCA นะครับตอนนี้มีคนได้เต็มด้วยนะครับคนที่ได้เต็มได้สกอร์ตอนช่วงที่รอออกมาลิสต์ก่อนแล้วกันนะฮะก็คือคนที่ได้สกอร์สูงสุดก็คือเต็ม10เนี่ยมีทั้งหมดอยู่3ท่านนะครับท่านแรกก็คือคุณนัทนายนะครับเมื่อวานนี้ก็ได้ไปแล้ว นะครับคนที่2นะครับก็คุณมนทนครับนะครับและคนที่3ก็คือคุณธเนศนะครับเฮ้ยใช่ธนัทนะครับชอบผิดตลอดเลยโอเคครับผมครับขออนุญาตนะครับแล้วก็
ไม่เอาแล้ว
ไม่ได้แล้ว
อันเลย
You need a manager to manage all. But that's good. I mean,
มีใครอยากได้ไหมครับ
because you're learning a few things,
จริงจริง
that is the intention.
ไม่ดีเลยครับผมได้สมัครผมได้ไป2 อันแล้วอันนี้อันที่3แล้วนั่นผมไม่พอแล้ว
อ๋อเหรอครับ
เป็นที่ข้างๆก็ได้ครับแจกกันไปมีแล้วเหมือนกันอ่ะบัตรไป
So what we saw earlier was as a user, as a persona. Now we're going to look at a few things which is done by admin. Okay, designing services. How do you populate a CMDB? CMDB, anyone? Do you know what a CMDB is? CMDB, Configuration Management Database. Some people I know that they know. A configuration management database is a database that has all the components, their details, and relationships with other components. So this is created and populated either manually or with tools. Configuration of the individual components, of the configuration items. The components within CMDB are configuration items, right? So a data center is full of configuration items, right? Because it's got several components, servers, network, storage, database, plus the relationships between the components, right? These are all part of a configuration. Now your cloud services is also a set of components working together, orchestrated together, right? They are CMDB. So when you say that 10 cloud services instances are consumed by the SAP department, for example, right? So you need to know what is connected, what providers and what building blocks are providing this service. Because if there is a disruption, you need to find out which is the component that has caused the problem or has failed, right? So the CMDB has to be referred to, or if you need to change anything on the data center, like add a new server, you need to plan for the outage, right? So how do you plan for the outage, right? You need to understand the impact of making the change. CMDB will help us do that as well. Not only give a list of what is connected where and how, what is the relationship, what is the server, what is the network, storage, to which port, which IP address, but also if a change is to be made, what is the impact of the change? So a new service created on cloud service is a change in the data center, right? So the CMDB has to be updated if the service is provisioned or deprovisioned, or the service is no longer used, the resources have to be given back to the pool, right? So that's another change in the CMDB. All that has to be registered. So the population of the CMDB has to be done automatically, right? So that's another demo we're going to see. Let's look at the design service, right? So I'm going to log in as admin. You'll notice a few things. Oh, sorry. Just bear with me. Okay. You will notice under my applications of the admin as a persona. He's got the ability to look at the dashboard, various organizations, various providers, the workflows, relevant designs, offerings, catalogs, all the operations that can be taken, as well as the content store and analytics as well. All of this on the applications available to admin, right? This is the dashboard, right? So let's go forward, especially under designer as a service. So under designer, you can see all the designs listed out on the left hand side, where there is CSA. CSA is the cloud service automation component of hybrid cloud management. Is also the middleware and the workplace services. Okay. Under that, you have the ability to create the designer. Here is a sample preview of the designer. There's a description of the service with a version, URL. Is it published? Is it like a production service? Is there a path to upgrade? Upgrade to what? All of these are part of the design. Next, what do we see? This is the actual design. So this is the tiers and the sub-components with what you can do on, for example, this J2EE on Azure, right? You can see that there's also a firewall here connected to the front end of the VMware, front end on OpenStack, there's a back end, and front end on Azure as well, with the J2EE on vCenter, right? So these are the things that are part of the design. So we're looking at the designer at the in the demo today. Under Oracle, you will notice where it's running from, which is the data center, what is the disk size, the domain name, memory, etc. Specifically, the design services. Any questions on design on how you would integrate with your marketplace portal? What kind of offerings that can be created? What kind of images or the reference to the template, whether the service is monitored or not? Okay. If not, let's go to the CMDB part. Populating the CMDB. So the service that has been requested needs to be updated on the CMDB, right? So, oops. Okay. So these are the various components that we designed for. You can see the MS Azure server group with the template version name, what it's connected to, how is it connected to, the other component that we looked at. These are from under the design part of HCM, specifically for designing the new service. these interconnectivities for the resources need to be updated on the CMDB. If you do not update, it's still okay, the service can still run, okay? If there is a change, you will not know where to change, what change, how to bring it back to normal operations, you will not know. Who is responsible for the component? If there are multiple different providers, who is responsible for VMware, who is responsible for Azure, who can bring it back up, you will not know. In spite of orchestration, you will need an owner for that part, right? So that is the key component where the ability to understand resources and the relationships are there in CMDB. Okay, going forward. In this case, the shopping for the services is next going to be populated in the CMDB. Service is requested for, you'll notice here. It's a hybrid compute service, okay, with the status of the subscription, which is active in this case, and the other details. What we're going to do next is to populate the CMDB, right? So look at the linked service. What services are linked? Because the relationships are also populated in the CMDB. You will look at the details of the services that are linked, including the public cloud, which is all Azure, coming in from Azure, hostname, IP address, right? So we started with looking at what a consumer can look at, what the admin can do. Now we're looking at design services by the admin, what he can make the consumer see or use or subscribe or actions that he can take. Here's a list of the CI types. If you notice, there's the business element, there's the business application, CI collection, which includes infrastructure elements, network, IP address, IP subnet, the nodes, computer, this is particularly Windows. All of these details are to be updated in the CMDB. If you do not update, like we saw, the impact will not be understood. That's the main intention of updating the CMDB. Right? So once we know that the update can be done, then we can look at how the services can be, how the resources can be optimized. This is a view of the CMDB. When you search for compute resources, inside the CMDB, you will notice that is hybrid compute service. This is from the CMDB, not the cloud service, but CMDB. Linux servers, hybrid compute service, test deployment, test group, etc. These are in the CMDB. You double click on this, you will see what are the interconnected components. Okay? Any questions on this? Else we can go to the next section. How do you deliver across multiple providers? And we'll skip the CMDB part because we've already seen it. Any questions on what kind of providers can be integrated? Okay, this is a surprise question, okay? Once the services are deployed, once the cloud services are deployed, what do you use to monitor the services? Any example that you can use to monitor services? Preferably from Micro Focus, okay? What can you use to monitor the cloud services? That the services are up and running. What would you use to monitor the cloud services? Whatever you did on the first day.
DCA.
Operations bridge. Right? So it's all linked, it's all connected, right?
Okay.
So you'd use operations bridge, either agent-based or agentless, to monitor the cloud services. Right? Now, on the deployed instances, if you were to manage patches, what would you use?
DCA.
DCA, right? So it's all related. So when you offer your services to your customers, you have a whole bunch of things that you can do. Right from public cloud to the data center. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do. So your service offering to your customer is very, very sound. Of course, it's the initial stage, yes. But then you have the ability that as a system integrator or as a service provider, I can do a whole bunch of things for you. Right? So that includes creating new services. Like some customers, they wanted to sell or offer discounted coffee mugs or bags with the company logo on the service management platform through the cloud management platform. They could integrate that as well. As employees, they give their employee ID or the number, they will get an additional 20% discount or whatever. So those kind of things have also been done from the same platform, which integrates with the company register as well as with the payment system. There's a whole lot of things that you can do with SCM. Any other questions that you think you can apply to your customer as a new offerings? Okay, we're almost at 12. So we'll break at 12. At 12, right?
Yes.
Okay. So once we come back from lunch, we will have a quick exercise. This time it will be shorter because the pattern is understood. It will be shorter, and then we will do the ROI part to see how we can look at the value, especially when you're trying to position. It could be as a buyer as well. It could be a buyer as well. But then you're now looking at those things which are actually giving you value more than just discount. Commercial value is only one part. What else can be done over the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? That's the exercise that we do once we come back. If there are any questions, I can take them. Okay? So thank you. Yes.
ครับเดี๋ยวรบกวนนิดนึงนะครับพอดีว่าเดี๋ยววันนี้ห้องอาหารเราจะย้ายไปอยู่ข้างล่างนะครับเดี๋ยวเรารับประทานอาหารร่วมกันข้างล่างแล้วกันนะแล้วก็เดี๋ยวมีคูปองอยู่ทางด้านหน้าเดี๋ยวเราจะแจกให้ทั้งทางออกแล้วเดี๋ยวเราไปพร้อมกันเพราะว่าห้องอาจจะอยู่อีกเซสชั่นโซนหนึ่งนะครับจะมีเจ้าที่พาไปครับผมแล้วหลังจากประชุมพักเที่ยงเสร็จแล้วกลับขึ้นมาใช้เวลา1 ชั่วโมงนะครับประมาณ11เท่าที่ครับมันช่วงบ่ายโมงตรงนะครับขึ้นมาแล้วก็ questionnaire quiz เมื่อเช้าที่ส่งไปครับอาจจะรบกวนลองทำไปเล่นบนเอกและส่งกลับคืนไปนะครับแล้วกันนะครับทีนี้เราจะได้มาสรุปกันว่าใครเป็นท็อปจากทั้งหมด3เซสชั่นแล้วก็มาดูผลงานอีกทีหนึ่งนะครับขอบคุณมากนะครับเดี๋ยวรบกวนรับคูปองด้านหน้าแล้วกัน